Last week we talked about connections, and this week we're moving forward to our next skill, which is inferences. Now, to construct an inference, oftentimes we're going to start with some thick questions. So to do that, we're going to actually practice making inferences while we watch the short film Strangers. On a piece of paper, I want you to write down 3 thick questions that you have about the film as you watch. Remember that you can ask thick questions about title, character motivation and action, setting and mood, character inclusion, symbolism, author's choice of words, etc., or anything else you could possibly think of. And here is our video of The Strangers. Okay, so that was the strangers. Now, the first thing we're going to do is to use a thick question to begin to develop our inference, because essentially an inference is a conclusion drawn as an answer to a thick question. I'm going to model what this looks like using the clip we just watched, the short film The Strangers, and as I model this, please fill in your Developing Inferences worksheet. Okay, so as I said, we're starting with a thick question, and I came up with one right away. My question is, why do the Arab man and the Jewish man, who are of opposing cultures, end up working together? Okay, so first we need to know the formula for constructing an inference. The basic formula is text clues plus schema equals inference. Now again, text clues might be a word you're familiar with. Schema most likely is not. So let's go over what that means. Text clues, obviously, is the specific evidence, the quotes, the examples from the story, the poem, or the clip. Anything from the story, from the poem, from the movie, a specific observation, an example, a piece of evidence. That's a text clue. Schema is the opposite. It's something that doesn't come from the text, but it's something that you know already. So more specifically, schema can be your specific text-to-text, text-to-self, or text-to-world connections that you could use to help answer the question. So text clues come from within the text. Schema is stuff you already knew before you even encountered the text. And when you put those two things together, you get your inference, or your educated conclusion or answer to the question that is not found within the text. So there's obviously a construction process to developing the inference. Step one, as we already kind of talked about, is to start with our thick question. As a reminder, my thick question was, why do the Arab man and the Jewish man, who are of opposing cultures, end up working together? And we're going to use text clues and schema to answer that question. Step two is to come up with those text clues that could help us answer the question. So these are the specific details from within the text. Some things that I might use to answer my question could be these details. We know from the clip the Nazis drew the swastika on the Arab's paper. The Jewish man's ringtone caught their attention. We saw that the Arab man and the Jewish man made eye contact. They both suddenly ran for it. They cheered together at the end. They switched book bags and waved. Okay, so notice this isn't my interpretation of what happened. This isn't anything that I think was going on that wasn't blatantly said. This is the exact observations that I have that I know were facts from within that clip. Step three is to come up with the connections, my schema, the information I already knew previously before reading the story that might help us answer the question. So some different schema that I know already that there's tension and conflict between Arabs and Jews. That wasn't necessarily stated within the clip. I know that Nazis have hatred towards both those cultures. Again, maybe it could be inferred, but it was not directly stated within that clip. I also know some things from personal experience. For example, I know that whenever people are worried about survival, if you're actually trying to survive, other things, such as prejudices, smaller things, are often forgotten, right? And I also know that people often come together to overcome difficult situations. Okay, I didn't need to watch the clip to know these things. These are things that I brought into it. These are connections that I can make from my own personal experience and prior knowledge. And step four is to just put all those things together. We want to remind ourselves, what are we trying to answer? Our inference should be a direct answer to our thick question. I have my text clues, I have my schema, and then the next step, final step, step 5, is to develop our inference. That's the answer that puts everything together. So with this example, my inference statement might look something like this. It might say, although the Jewish man and the Arab man have prejudices against one another, they realize that they must work together when confronted by the Nazis. Their survival instincts take over and their prejudices are forgotten. When they make eye contact, they acknowledge that they must work together in order to survive. After they make a run and escape from the Nazi gang, they both cheer together. Although they did work together in order to survive the dangerous situation, afterward they switch book bags and again go their separate ways. Now I know you're probably thinking, oh my god, that's such a long paragraph, that's so much writing. But really, we're taking those text clues we already came up with and the schema and combining those together. Some inferences might be long, like this, and some might be shorter. It really depends on what type of question you're trying to answer. So remember that our question was, why and how did the Jewish man and the Arab man come together? Well, there were a lot of steps that really came together to make that happen. Okay, so my inference is obviously a little bit longer, and it does include both text clues and schema. They don't all necessarily have to be this long, though they all will include both text clues and schema. So today we're going to do a little bit more work with inferences, and you're going to have the opportunity to develop your own inferences with a different text. Okay, thanks.